Hello and happy Sunday. Happy hot fall Sunday. I am Ann Leland Clark. I'm the Executive Director of Exodus Lending, and I am here to talk about our mission and our work, but I am very overjoyed to be here with a member of your own.
Hi, my name is Kim Miller, and I'm a member here at Zion, and so my oldest is in confirmation here on Wednesdays, and then I'm also the board secretary of Exodus Lending, so I'm excited to also be here today. So.
Okay. Do you want to flip slides? I want to get a little closer. I'm going to have Kim be my Vanna White. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to talk to you. It's so small, but I will tell you what it says. So Exodus Lending, I'm going to welcome. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our journey and a little bit the journey of payday lending in Minnesota. By a show of hands, who knows what payday lending is in this room? Okay, we're going to walk through it. And more broadly, I'm going to refer to predatory lending. Payday is a type of predatory lending. But Minnesota, this has not been around forever. Minnesota legalized payday lending in 1995. Which is usurious lending over 36%. The United States, under Bush 1, passed a 36 interest rate cap at the national level for active duty military. So this is a caveat to tell you, even military has sort of recognized that this is a predatory practice. And Ace Cash Express, which is a payday lender and money cash check casher, opened up on Lake Street. This prompted Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in South Minneapolis to found what is today Exodus Lending. So we were born out of Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. And we enrolled our first participant in 2015. So we've been lending since 2015. And we became our own nonprofit, our 501c3 status in 2016. So we became independent. And we became credit reporters. So we started reporting repayment to credit bureaus in 2018. That was a big milestone for us to go beyond sort of an informal to more of a formal nonprofit lender. We were so blessed by a $100,000 gift in COVID by a donor, and we used that to cover payments, to give people relief, because that's our mission, to give people financial relief. Part of it was used to cover 3 months of payments during that hard time. Part of it was used for grants. That was a milestone for us. And then in 2021, so you'll see the little icon, Minnesotans for Fair Lending. That is the advocacy coalition that was built also out of Holy Trinity Lutheran Church at the same time of Exodus Lending. We were the program solution. Minnesotans for Fair Lending was the advocacy or systems change solution. And Minnesotans for Fair Lending passed the first national municipal citywide rate cap at 33% in Moorhead, Minnesota. That made some fun big news in our little sector, and that was in 2021. We were lucky to merge. The Minneapolis Area Synod gifted us Minnesotans for Fair Lending Coalition and the grant it came with, and we merged officially in 2021 or 2022. It feels like it's been a long time and not a long time at all. And then we have the advocacy and the program under one roof, which is really powerful, and we will talk about that. Kim has her own experiences there. We are piloting in 2023, earlier this year, I'll talk about it, the resiliency loan, which is the upstream anti-payday loan. So catching people before they fall into debt. And then very, very exciting, Minnesota became the 20th state in the United States to pass a 36% rate cap this legislative session. That goes into effect on January 1st. So that is a major milestone that we've been working on with Minnesotans for Fair Lending for a decade. Next slide, my dear. I really like to get started by asking folks, what do you think is the average interest rate, annual percentage rate, of a loan that we refinance? What do you think? Shout it out. 65%. Oh. 311% is the average APR of a predatory loan we refinance. We're going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so what is a predatory loan? This lingo I'm throwing around here. A loan is predatory when the loan benefits the lender at the borrower's expense. So there's 3 types of major predatory lending that we're seeing come through our doors at Exodus Lending. We're seeing payday loans. Those are those storefront, think Ace Cash Express, Payday or Pawn America, that are short-term, high-cost loans typically due on your next payday in full plus finance charges. Good news, Minnesota just banned those. So we've already seen major players stop issuing new loans. And by January 1st, it will become illegal in Minnesota to offer payday loans. So that is exciting. We also see, and I'll talk a little bit more, rent-to-bank model. So these rent-to-bank and tribal lending, they're online. They look like an online financial technology website, but they're backed by banks in other states, FDIC-regulated banks, mind you, and they essentially are online lenders that are laundering loans through out-of-state banks or through the cover of tribal sovereignty. So those are what we still have yet to work on in Minnesota and nationally. Next slide, please. What does this look like in Minnesota? We get some geeky data every year from our Department of Commerce, Minnesota Department of Commerce. And in 2022 was the first time we've seen an increase in 6-7 years. This looked like 25,000 Minnesotans who took out more than 160,000 predatory loans from licensed lenders in Minnesota, licensed payday lenders. So this is data on what's going to stop. The average loan in Minnesota, and this is not Exodus Lending, this is Minnesota data. The average loan was $424 with an interest rate of 220%. And borrowers took out 6 or more loans, with 33% taking out 10 or more loans. So people get stuck. This is where the debt trap frame comes from. They get stuck. They roll over these loans over and over again because their account just can't take the drop of paying the loan in 2 weeks. If they were short when they took the loan, they're likely to be short in 2 weeks. And Minnesota payday borrowers paid nearly $4.5 million in interest and fees. So that's really what's drained from our communities. And I thought I'd do a pullout from this data of Anoka County data. So you can see here, Anoka County borrowers averaged 7 loans, and 274,000 was stripped out of Anoka County by 1,300 borrowers. So you can see that Anoka County, and they had 3 lenders, 3 payday lenders, 2 Payday America and an Ace Cash Express. So I thought I'd do the pullout for your region. Okay. So this is really what it looks like. This is what we do. So one of our customers, one of our borrowers came in to us with this loan above. It's called op loan. They, play off opportunity, right? They came to us, they financed, they asked for $2,000. Over the course of the loan, which was 9 months, they were going to pay back $34.53. That's predatory. To pay almost double, not quite, what you took out. What this looked like on their budget, on the family budget of this borrower, was they were paying $177 twice a month. And they were going to be stuck in this for 9 months to pay off the full $3,400. So they came to us. And we paid off this predatory lender, this is a rent-a-bank lender. And what it looks like, we paid off $1,500, that's our cap, and they're gonna owe us $1,500 because we're a zero-interest lender. We're a nonprofit lender. And their monthly payments went down from $177 every other week to $62.50 monthly for 24 months. And we report to credit bureaus. The above did not. So not only are we relieving them of these predatory payments, we are building their financial resilience and power by building up that credit score. And the stories are really what motivates us, right? It's the stories, not just the numbers. And so this is Mary, who lived in St. Louis Park. This is her story. She says, I was short, and a friend recommended I took out a payday loan. The first time it was great. But next payday, I had to pay it back with a $30 fee. This went on every payday for a few years. I was ready to file for bankruptcy when I was told about Exodus Lending. They paid off my loan, which was $532 every 2 weeks or more. And then I had 12 months to pay $30 a month, plus incentives. We give incentives for repayment. I'm so glad I went to Exodus Lending. So that's Mary's testimonial of her experience with us. And the real common feeling and reaction is, it helped until it hurt. No lending should help until it hurts. It should help and continue helping. Okay. If you're curious, to date, since 2015, we've helped 650 folks escape 930 payday loans. What that looks like is we have 154 that are active in repayment with us, and over 400 who have repaid in full. I think the most I was wrong earlier. 316% is our average APR. I think I said 311. It keeps creeping up. And I think it's worth naming that to date, we have saved folks almost $1.9 million in interest and fees that would have been paid in further entrapment. And I thought it was fun to show 50 of these folks have come from Anoka County, and we've paid off nearly $47,000 of debt for Anoka County folks so far, because we're a statewide program. Okay. All right, quickly, something where I mentioned at the beginning, we're very excited. So we're, as you can imagine, the pie of refinancing earlier, payday loans, online tribal loans, online rent-a-bank loans. We just took out a piece of the pie in Minnesota. We ended payday lending. So we're looking to offer upstream solutions. What does it look like to offer a loan, a 0% loan, before you turn to the predatory lender? We're calling this our resiliency loan. And we're offering it in partnership with nonprofits, place-based trusted nonprofits. Because you can imagine we can't offer a $1,200 loan online at 0% and reach our target markets. Everyone would want one. So we're embedding this in community-based nonprofits that are serving underserved communities, unbanked, underbanked communities. So this resiliency loan is essentially the anti-payday loan. Next slide. We piloted this puppy in January and February. And we said, the board, Kim, said, you can have $30,000 to test this out. And we said, okay, we'll do it for 4 months. We had 3 community partners, Neighbors Inc., Dakota County, Dignity Center, and Northside, I always say their name wrong, Northside Residents Redevelopment Council in North Minneapolis. We ran out of money in 2 months. This was very popular. These nonprofits embedded it in their multi-service organizations, their programs, as an offering, a supplemental offering to their food shelves, to their financial counseling and education. And what happened within 2 months, 28 people exhausted the loan pool plus some. And they used these loans to prevent eviction, to secure stable housing, think first last month's rent, a security deposit, and a lot of them used it. These are the 3 most popular reasons people used it. Used to pay for car repairs to stay employed. Because as we know, in Minnesota, you need a car to get around, to get your child to childcare to continue working. So we were very successful in this pilot, and we're looking to scale it up. So we're going from this small nonprofit with 1 program to now adding a whole new lending program. But it's upstream. So hopefully our advocacy will end the predators altogether in Minnesota, and then all of our capital could be used for the anti-payday loan. Because our job is to bridge folks from non-bank check cashers, non-bank predatory lenders, to credit unions and banks, where their wealth is protected and their wealth can grow. Okay, now this is where Kim really comes in. So our advocacy coalition, this was some polling we did in 2020 that 79% of Minnesotans agree that payday lending should be outlawed. It's bipartisan polling. Unfortunately, it wasn't at the Capitol, but we're still working on it. So it was a local story that actually changed the game. Kim here met with, Kim, you're from Champlin, met with her senator. We had a 1-vote majority in the Senate. Met with her senator to have a meeting, as a good, amazing board member does, and learned, you don't have my vote. They had a personal relationship with somebody that owned a payday lending outlet. And that happens, right? That happens. Friendships they can get in the way of politics sometimes. But thanks to our uncovering that we got to work on negotiations with this senator. We wouldn't have known otherwise. This wouldn't have happened without Kim's meeting with her senator. I know you think I'm giving you too much credit, but I'm not. So next slide. So I just have to show the map because Minnesota's finally green. So Minnesota joined 20 other states in capping interest rates, effectively ending payday lending as we know it. So it's very exciting this year. That will come into effect on January 1st, though, as I mentioned, most payday lenders have stopped. They've stopped issuing these predatory loans because the writing is on the wall. So I'm just curious if you would tell your story of what happened and how you became the queen of the senator's eye.
I'm not. Although today's story, as Pastor Connie said, is about Queen Esther, right? And so, and the story of Queen Esther is that she wanted to help her people and got into a place where she found someone to hear her voice. And I'm here to tell you that as a constituent living where you are that person that can provide a voice to your state legislators. So a lot of times when you hear issues and you hear things that really mean a lot to you, sometimes advocates will say, just go to your state legislator and tell them, or write a letter, or give them a phone call. And you might think, they don't want to hear from me. Like I'm just a cog in the machine of whatever's going on here. I don't make a difference. And for a long time, I thought that too. And so when I finally got inspired by Minnesotans for Fair Lending, they just said, just make an appointment. What's the worst that could happen? You show up to your state senator and then they don't listen to you? It's not that big of a deal. So I went, all right. Because I've written out, how many of you have done like the form letter to your legislator and you get you send a canned response, you get a canned response back. Anyone done that before? Yeah. And you're like, okay, that's fine. It makes me feel good inside, but I don't really think anything was happening. So I sent an email to the legislative staff. I scheduled a meeting, and I show up, and it is like a little mini episode of The West Wing. There's just like people running around and talking, and there's like meetings and doors slamming and whatnot, and it's very exciting. But then all of a sudden, my senator, John Hoffman, comes running in, and he goes, hey, I have a meeting with you. You're my constituent. You're my priority. Just give me a minute. And he slams the door, okay. And so then he comes back out, and then he goes, I have to run, do a quick meeting. Please go into my office. There's snacks, there's drinks. I have cable. He goes, just make yourself comfy. If you can wait 15 minutes for me, I'll come back and I'll give you my time. And I went, okay. So one tip is make sure your schedule's a little bit flexible when you're meeting with your legislator. So he had to run to a hearing. He came back, and I just have to tell you that I was blown away that the very first thing that came out of his mouth was, I make a priority for my constituents. And I am so glad that you came to visit with me because I like to get to know the people that live in my area. And so no matter what, party you belong to, every single legislator believes that. And they want to hear you and they give priority. So other people were waiting in line to talk to him too. And the first question they said was, where do you live? Because Senator Hoffman's prioritizing people that live in his area. And at that point in time, I was the only constituent. Everyone else lived elsewhere. So guess what? He met with me for 45 minutes. So I got to sit down with him and tell him about predatory lending. It turns out we have similar backgrounds in credit counseling. So during my day job is I work for Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota. And I do financial education and ongoing financial coaching. And we have a background in that. And so he's seen the devastations that predatory lending can cause. He just had other concerns about predatory lending. So once we uncovered the common background and the similar concerns, we could work with that. And I think that's a good thing. That's what I learned too, is that sometimes there's power in sitting down with someone and having the conversations, finding out what you have in common, what are the questions that you might have, and how we can move forward together. And so I would just encourage you all that when you hear issues like this and you go, why does payday lending exist? Why is the resiliency loan important? That's because 70% of us as Americans cannot handle a $1,000 emergency without turning to credit products. So if you're in Target, imagine only 30% of you could handle a car breaking down tomorrow. The rest of us are going out finding loans. And then you think about the percentage of people who don't have access to credit cards or regular loans from banks, that's where they start turning to these predatory lenders. So you start breaking it down and you start seeing the issues per person and not just like overall numbers too. So, and that's what meeting with your legislator does, is it takes a big issue of just turning into words and it turns it into you as a person going, this means something to me. And this is how it affects me. This is how I've seen it happen in our community. And that sometimes can be all the difference. I know that the senator in Anoka County, it's Abler, right? Yes. Yeah. He was also very open to the predatory rate cap. And so, and you'd think that he wouldn't be aware of it, but he was. And so it's just, sometimes we like to make assumptions, but we always encourage you, like, reach out, send that personalized email, set up a meeting. Give yourself a little time, though, and then take advantage of their cable in their office. So,
I do particularly love imagining Kim sitting in the office just enjoying cable. Like, that is just, what a delight. What an added benefit while you wait. For those of us that don't have cable at home, I would just be like, I would enjoy it. So, okay, so we won, right? We won with Senator Hoffman's support, thanks to Kim's conversation. So, and in Anoka County, we're still, what's next? Let's build off this momentum. I showed you, we're not done with predatory lending. Minnesotans for Fair Lending didn't hang up their hat after this win. In fact, we are working on, don't ask me what the DIDMA indict, that there's this deposit, if there's anyone who's a banker in here, they will know this, but there's a federal depository act that allows Minnesota to say to the rent-a-bank. So there's lenders, these are the predatory lenders laundering loans, they're online lenders, laundering loans through out-of-state banks to evade state interest rate caps. So there is an action, this is very geeky and weedsy, but there is something Minnesota can do to opt out and to say, no, banks in Utah, for example, you may not lend via these online lenders to Minnesotans. You need to honor Minnesota law and Minnesota interest rates. So that's what we're tackling next. We're working with the Deputy Attorney General, and only so far, only Iowa and Puerto Rico have done this. Colorado, just last year, worked on this. So in Colorado, there's some time before it implements, so we could be the second state. We could beat Colorado on this if we do it this year. So what that looks like, I want to show you let me show you the next slide. So this is called Credit Ninja. I did this last night. I thought it would be fun to see it. This is the website, Credit Ninja. Online loans with same-day decision. Personal loans to help with life's unexpected expenses. Easy application process. Flexible repayment schedule? We saw a repayment that wasn't very flexible. If approved, you get your money the same day. Sounds great. I walk into a bank, it's going to take longer. So this is an example of a rent-a-bank. You don't see anywhere on here that it's a bank, right? You have to scroll down to the fine print. But let me show you the next slide. This is the loan agreement. This is the truth in lending disclosure. This is what we get. In here, Capital Community Bank, an FDIC-insured Utah state chartered bank. You didn't see that anywhere on the website. This is an example of a predatory rent-a-bank scheme. Literally online lenders renting a bank in a state that has no usury laws and lending at 225% in this case. So this is a real, I redacted it so you don't see who it is, but this is a real loan document that we paid off. So we paid off under $1,500 of this loan. Okay, next slide. So, to the long and short of it, Anoka County is key. It really is. We're gonna need Senator Abler, and we're gonna need Senator Hoffman again this year. This is a different issue, right? I have a feeling folks, I just hope, I might be too optimistic and hopeful. I have a feeling folks might really support this because it's out-of-state banks, and we're saying, hey, you have to lend like Minnesota banks under our usury laws. So I'm really hopeful that this is going to have more bipartisan universal support. We cannot do it without you, without Kim taking yet another meeting to educate. We're early on in this issue. We're putting together our issue education, our fact sheets. We're learning how to talk about it. But what we really need, how folks can be involved, is spreading the word. Invite, if you have a book club or another group, invite Kim and I to come speak and spread the word about this. We are happy to. We are so thankful for Pastor Connie for even inviting us into this room today. Contact your legislators. We can't underscore it more. Anoka County is key in making this happen next year. So stay informed, and you can stay informed. You can sign up for our advocacy action alerts, our newsletter, and we can keep you informed as it goes along the road and the journey. We're early on right now, and we're going to be building momentum towards a legislative session. We are always open and welcome to donation. Thank you to Zion for, I think, since 2017, you've been supporting our work very faithfully. So thank you. We always are welcome donations. And I do have, the fun, fancy remittance envelope up here, as well as other ways to give. And then, of course, I think one thing that's worth mentioning is, where do we get our loan funds? So the money that we loan out is a community-based revolving loan pool. So individuals and institutions, and it's usually faith institutions, they park anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 into our loan pool. I have a promissory note with them for 3 years. So it's like tucking away savings with Exodus Lending, and we use it as loan capital for 3 years at 0% interest, because 0% interest is our value, one of our core values. So we are 90% deployed. We have 90% of our loan capital into the community right now. So I'm looking for more folks to invest, to park $5,000 to $30,000 with a promissory note for 3 years to help spread and grow our revolving loan pool. So that's another way you can get involved. We have many ways folks can get involved, and it's like saving, but of course the donation is maybe the lost interest you would have if you put that money into a CD, for example. So there is definitely some skin in the game there. So these are the ways you can be involved. And I know, QR codes, who are you kidding, Ann? For those that want to use, yeah, that's right. We have someone that knows a QR code right there. This is how you can sign up for our e-news and our action alerts. And when I say action alert, I mean the advocacy. Call your senator. Invite you to meet with your senator, your representatives. But if you want to give me your information the old-fashioned way, your email, phone number, I got paper. Thank you, everybody, for having us, for letting me visit. And there's materials and information up here on the table on our program and on how to support us. My business card. I definitely would love you guys to sort of follow our work via our newsletter, Action Alerts. And happy to speak to any other groups that you're part of.